VeryDarkMan is a religion in Nigeria at the moment, and I am just an analyzer, or you can call me a seer, if perhaps you are humble in your spirit to see the gift of another man. I want to analyze few things to Nigerians to understand the state at which we are with the movement of VeryDarkMan VDM. If you would agree with me, and you can understand the meaning of a religion, you would have understand that at this junction, VeryDarkMan has become a religious person in Nigeria. In fact, I call it a new religion in Nigeria. But the people have not been able to actually see it as a religion simply because there have not been rituals that they have to practice every single day. But it has become a mindset already to the people. And I think he has earned the right to be a movement of the people. But I think at the end of the day, regardless of the intentions of mankind, there can be some ways we have to be able to look at the future and see where all this is going to lead us to, which is part of the things I would like to analyze for those who are the rattle gangs and those who are thinkers that out of the box and those who are the haters of VeryDarkMan. It is important all of us see these things as an issue of life, an issue of a time. And within this time frame, we are experiencing something. And most of us will remember this time in our life of the era of VDM as a special era. So for those who haven't subscribed to the channel, sometimes I like to give out my gift and my insights on things. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to it, like and share. And I hope you can get the message as we proceed. And I would like you to also open your mind to this conversation. Before I proceed into much details, I would like to give us an insight of when the movement of VeryDarkMan actually started. The voice of VeryDarkMan became very heard during the time of Mohbad, when he begins to give the insight of what he thought about the situation and what he was expecting that the law enforcement are supposed to do. VeryDarkMan tends to be a street guy. A guy who understands the way things happens in the street. And basically for you to have been from the northern area, go to Abuja and live some kind of lifestyle, it's going to broaden your eyes, most especially if you are educated or you are not educated. As much as you are social and you are moving around, there are certain informations that you'll be able to grab. And I think that is an open person who is actually willing to learn and who is actually willing to grow. But during this period of time, during the time of Mohbad, VeryDarkMan took that opportunity. It wasn't an opportunity for him. He might see it as an opportunity. It was a calling that he had at that moment. You see, the call of every man begins with something. You start a movement or you start a speech or you start something. You might have been doing it for countless of years and nobody is seeing you. But when the right time comes, according to the spiritual senses, and I don't want this to look like a religious or spiritual kind of talk, but I want you to also have it at the back of your mind that the spiritual controls the physical. Before you do anything, there is a thought inside of you. That thought is not seen. Yes, you might process it logically, but it is not seen in the spiritual, and then your actions make it manifest itself. But there is another spiritual that is far beyond your thought, which you may call it idea, you may call it spiritual movement. But as an African, I don't think I need to over explain these things. I think we should be able to analyze and understand what this actually stood for. So during this period of time, he came out, and I think that was the time or the time mark he was to hit in his own realm, and at that thing is going to manifest itself to the fruition of the Nigerians. And I think Nigeria is a nation of believers. You don't necessarily have to agree with me, but Nigeria is a nation of believers. And I want you to understand this, that the nation of the people who suffer the most are the nations of the believers. Why? Because they may have an understanding to follow through certain principles of certain things that are being set down to make their life easier. But sometimes some people might take advantage and mislead. And you can see this happen in many Arabian countries and many countries. You can point it out. I think if we look at it historically, Nigeria is a cultural, traditional place. Before we are called Nigeria, in the 1960s, and even before the 1960s, when we are talking about the 1800s, the European and the British presume, and they watched us carefully during the time of our colonization. They realized that we are a nation, or we are a people of believers. So when they are about to leave us and let us go, they know that the best seed to set into our mind was to collapse our religion, was to collapse our belief system and give us a new thing to believe. And this is the reason why no nation takes Christianity or religious sentiment or mentality as serious as the Nigerians, simply because it is in our DNA to be a believer. We love to believe and we love to follow. And let me also let you understand, the nation of believers are the most happy nations. They might not be free, but they would be happy simply because there are principles that already govern them. And this is the reason why you can see that religion is a big business in Nigeria. But back to the sake of our VDM. When VDM came, he began to talk about the story of Mohbad, and his time spiritually hit that he is the one to take charge. And this is the reason why, regardless of whoever is coming at this moment, this is the moment of VeryDarkMan. And there is an advantage to it, and there is a disadvantage to it. The problem is that some of the people who tends to be the believers of VeryDarkMan, VDM, most of them would not want to know about the disadvantage, because when you believe in something, you don't want to see anything negative about that thing that you believe, because when you believe, they call belief a mental acceptance. In the dictionary word, they call it mental acceptance. So when you have accepted something mentally, you don't debate it. You already say, this is what it is. But for illogical people, you might want to look at it and say, okay, where am I actually going with this statement saying that we have a lot of believers, or VeryDarkMan himself has become a religion in Nigeria? I think one of the things that VeryDarkMan did, when his voice begins to be heard, VeryDarkMan went into a particular program in the 48 Laws of Power. VeryDarkMan decided to start giving to the people and decide to support to the people. And you see, this is what Nigerians, majority of Nigerians lack. Those who wants to go learn to become to learn a job, to become a hairstylist, to learn any other thing. VDM, out of the influence he begins to have, he started using that to support the people. Now, in his mind, he's trying to relate to the people, but in the other sense, people need him. And so people are seeing through him that if this guy is interested in supporting us, there must be something special about him. And so the world is trying to understand what is going on with his personality, and this is the reason why people were kind of drawn to him. But most especially, you would say, most people that were drawn to him initially were those who were going through struggles. But with time, even those who are financially capable are beginning to get drawn to him, because they are seeing something different from what the other people are actually seeing. The people who are rushing first towards VDM are those who are the voiceless. Most of those people who are oppressed, these are the people rushing towards VDM, that this guy might be able to have a solution, or at least he will be able to give us a support. And we need a man who can do that. And regardless, during the time VDM was given to the people, he didn't have as what he has right now. He never had NGO, he never had any of all those things, but it was the voice and he was fighting for the people. But it got to a time, it became a movement, and VDM begins to see how to speak to the people. But let me say this, even as VDM has the wishes of making the change, there are many obstacles he begins to face. And one of the obstacles that VDM faced, some of you might think that the problem of VDM is that there are a lot of people in power, and VDM cannot overtake those people in power and so bring more liberation to the people. The problem VDM have is the people that is actually supporting. And here is the reason. Most times VDM always have good ideas and say, oh, let us be courageous enough, because one of the talent or one of the gift he has was the things of boldness and the things of courage, to speak up his mind, even regardless of the fact that it might not always be accurate, but he is willing to speak what he thinks. And that is where the freedom is, within his spirit. So when he's showing the courage to speak up his mind, the problem is that most of the believers do not understand. When he says AB, most of them just hear go, they know the year come back. And so when he make a decision and he tells the Nigerian that, something is going on and we think we have to protest against this thing, there are a lot of people that he might not be able to organize, because most of those believers are just willing to become extreme. If VDM say go, you are finished. And they don't want to hear from the other side. They don't want to hear criticism. They don't want to hear anyone analyze anything. They don't want to hear the thought of people. All they believe is that whatever he says is the truth. And rightfully so, most of the things he says are true. But the problem is that the believers are the challenge that are not making him get to where he needs to go in life. I repeat it one more time. The challenge of VeryDarkMan to get to the height where he will be able to make a change is not VeryDarkMan. It is the people that are following Very Dark Man. And the reason is this. When Very Dark Man is fighting for something, maybe NGO, maybe Bob Risky, maybe Femi Falana, maybe something like that, rather than most of them to wait for the person who they owe on to finish up with one particular work, or to say, oh, Very Dark Man, this is, you are our leader, this is where we are supposed to go, this is where we think you are directing us to, let us make sure we finish up with this, and then we move to the next one, and then you can see this, and then we say we can move to the next one. And trust me, the reason why I say this is because the interest of Very Dark Man was, according to his words, and I can see it normally, that he wants to build people like him to flow around. And this is why I call it even a religion, because now we have what we call the Very Fair Man, which is one of the disciples of Very Dark Man. Maybe he likes it or not, that's what it is. But you see, they keep screaming on him. And this is just one of the things that happened during the time of Moses, that Moses was trying to lead them to the promised land. But whenever there's a little bit of challenge, everybody is calling Moses, 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 till the time where they make him make a mistake. And rather for him to touch the rock with the rod that was with his hand, he hit the rock with the rod that was in his hand. And that was what stopped Moses from getting to the promised land. The noises of the people on every situation, oh, Very Dark Man, would not be able to let him do as much as the capacity of the gift that he has within him. And so, what is the bone of contention? Here's what I would say. Very Dark Man at some point would have to stop. And there's a caveat. The time will come in Very Dark Man's life. He will get married. Probably he might not be willing to get married because he doesn't see marriage as something unique, basically because we all can see what is going on in today's world. But VDM is going to have a child. The moment he has a child, his personality is going to change. And some people will think, oh, Very Dark Man personality would never change. It will change. Fatherhood changes people. I am a father of 2 children, and it has changed me regardless of how aggressive, how violent, how whatever I was at the past. I had to change simply because children are now involved. And so people can spit on my eyes right now. I'm still going to fight you, but it will be different. But before, you can't spit on my eyes because that might be your last spit if you're not careful. And that doesn't mean I would take you out. No, that means I'm going to teach you a lesson that will be very great. But children taught me something to open a different side of me, which is the spiritual side. And so VDM will get to this particular level. And when it gets to this particular level, some people think that he's going to operate just like Fela Nicola Pokuti. Let me say this. Fela did not have the kind of support that Very Dark Man have. Yes, Fela did not have the kind of support. Fela was an activist. Very Dark Man is like a prophet, but a leader. But I think the voices of the people are going to be his greatest challenge. And when he has children, I think somebody who loves the masses, because one of the things he does is he shows love to the people and he pays attention to the people. And when he cannot be a great father, he cannot be a great person, based off what I can see, he would lean more or 50% to his children's place. And when he leans to that place, hopefully, most of them should be learning the things that Very Dark Man has to teach and use that to move ahead in life. Don't think that Very Dark Man will lead you to the promised land. The time at which Very Dark Man exists at this moment is to open the eyes of the people of the possibility that if you can open your mind and be courageous, he is not the savior. Just like John the Baptist, the real savior will come, not Very Fair Man. The real savior will come, but most of you can take advantage of the moment right now to learn everything you can learn. And I'm not supporting the initiation of Very Fair Man now. I don't think Very Fair Man will go far. Trust me, I don't hate anybody. But what I can see, Very Fair Man would not go far. And I don't know why. There are many things we can see, but I don't want to start saying this before, because most people would think I'm just hater. No. But here's the bone of contentions. If Nigerian youths can take this moment and learn a lot from Very Dark Man, you guys will do exploits and you guys will liberate your country. If you believe and you think that Very Dark Man is the one that would liberate every one of you and you're not willing to learn, he had nothing before he came to the limelight. The same thing as those of us who are oppressed, or those of you who are oppressed. I don't believe in the idea of oppression because that's a colonization mentality. But that does not change the fact that there are many Nigerians who are being oppressed and you guys want somebody that will stand for you. You need to start learning to stand for yourself. And this is the key point. If we can If most of you can embody the things of VDM and begin to open your social media and speak against the things of power, not the idea of you just saying, VDM, speak on, write on, write on. Learn. You might make mistake. Other people would correct you. Before VDM is being loved, he was being accused and abused by people. How many of you remember during the time VeryDarkMan went to prison? How a lot of Nigerians were rejoicing during that time. That is the process. When you start, you would make mistake and people may not like you. But along the line, you can adjust. The idea is for you to have your voice and for you to speak for yourself and for those who are oppressed. And the moment you take advantage of VDM's courage and you take advantage of the technology, like you can see that a lot of people like Femi Falana, Bobrisky and all these things, the way they get exposed in Nigeria is because of technology and it's because of the courage of those who are exposing them. Do the same. Nigeria will change. But if you don't do it for the believers and the followers, VDM will get exhausted and no one to be blamed. He is a human being and everybody has a limit that they can go. If you understand it, subscribe to the channel, like and share. If you hate, give me a thumbs up and share it also. See you in the next one. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.
When you are revolutionary and you talk the truth, people will come and slap you down. Then you talk the truth again, they lock you in jail. Them never hear anything at all. Then go hear pansa pansa. When you are revolutionary and you talk the truth, people will come and slap you down. Then you talk the truth again, they lock you in jail. Them never hear anything at all. Then go hear pansa pansa.